Stop calling your toddler selfish for not sharing. I know, I've been there. You're at the park, your kid grabs a toy from another kid or refuses to let anyone touch her blocks, and suddenly, all eyes are on you. You feel that pressure to force her to be nice. You feel like you have to fix it. But what if I told you that by forcing her to share right now, you aren't teaching her generosity? You're actually undermining the exact process she needs to feel secure. Here is the truth. What you're seeing isn't a personality flaw. It's a developmental stage. According to Jean Piaget's cognitive development theory, they are in what we call the pre-operational stage. They have this specific trait called egocentrism. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't selfish in the adult moral sense. It's simply a cognitive limit. In her mind, she hasn't yet learned to separate her perspective from someone else's. If she sees a toy, it's hers. If she wants it, it belongs to her. Frank used to look at Kimberly during these moments and say, "She just needs to learn her manners, Lynn." And I get why he thought that. But the science is clear. She needs to feel completely secure in her ownership, in her dominion over her things, before she can ever have the emotional energy to genuinely share. So how do we actually guide this? Let's break it down by age.
Let's look at the map of how this actually unfolds, because every age is different. First, the 1 to 2-year-old stage. This is the germination period. She is just starting to build what we call object permanence. She's learning that things exist even when she can't see them. So when she grabs something, it's hers. That's her way of saying, "I exist and I can affect the world." If we interrupt that, we're accidentally damaging that first step of her building a self-boundary. Then you hit 2 to 3 years old. This is the peak conflict stage. She's not just possessive, she's obsessed with control. You know, like the car has to stay here, the blocks must be in this exact spot. And if someone touches it, oh, she loses it. She might push, she might hit. It feels aggressive, but it's just because she lacks the language to handle the frustration. My job isn't to punish her, but to be her safe harbor. Then 3 to 4 years old, this is when the prefrontal cortex starts to kick in. They start to realize, wait, there's an I and a you. They finally understand turn-taking. It's like a light bulb goes off. They realize that sharing can actually be beneficial. And by 4 to 6, that's the stability phase. They're no longer just protecting their stuff. They're enjoying the collaboration. They get the concept of borrowing, of ownership, of teamwork. But the journey from point A to point B, that's where we come in as the guides.
So, okay, you get the science, but what do you actually do when the park meltdown happens? My first rule is stop being the judge. Seriously, stop acting like the referee in a court of law. When Kimberly grabs a toy from another kid, our instinct is to go, say sorry and give it back. But that's just a shortcut. It doesn't actually teach her to negotiate. Instead, be a sports commentator. Just describe the game. When she's pulling on that truck, I just stay calm and say, I see 2 kids who both want this truck. I know you're really frustrated because you haven't finished playing. That's it. You aren't taking sides. You're just naming the tension. And by doing that, you're helping her realize, oh, there's another person here, instead of just jumping to the, I must win this, fight or flight mode. And then there's the pre-game strategy. Before we have anyone over, Kimberly and I go through her toys. We pick out the public ones, the ones she's okay with everyone touching, and the private ones, her absolute favorites that go into her special cabinet. It sounds like a lot of work, I know, but it gives her control. If she knows her favorite bear is safe in the cabinet, she's way more likely to share the blocks in the living room. She feels safe, and that makes all the difference.
Now, let's talk about the turn-taking dilemma. Toddlers have zero concept of time. That's why I started using a sand timer. You need to make taking turns something she can see.
I tell her, okay, the timer is set. When the sand runs out, it's the other friend's turn. The magic is she can see it coming. She isn't being blindsided. It transforms that sharing is losing feeling into, okay, I know I'll get it back. And this next one, it's hard, but please, respect her boundaries. If I need to use her crayons, I ask, can I borrow this for a second? If she says no, I say, okay, I'll wait. You're showing her that no is a valid boundary. When you respect her property, she learns to respect her friends.
So let's bring it back to the big picture. I know, the process feels slow. You want her to be generous now, but I promise you, sharing isn't a moral test. It's a high-level social skill. Think about it. The only way she can ever truly give is if she first feels secure in having. If she knows her boundaries are respected, she'll naturally start to lower her walls. You're doing a great job, Mama. See you in the next one.